What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave, and welcome to our first premiere for Newswave. It was something I wanted to try out to see how it goes, so I guess let me know in the comments if this is a format you like where people can kind of chat as the video is ongoing for the first playthrough. But today, we have some pretty serious stuff to go over, as I'd say we just had the biggest leak ever in games, and it has to do with Microsoft and their plans all the way up to 2030. We'll discuss some of that though here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Bethesda because along with Microsoft, we had a good chunk of their release lineup just kind of get out there. And we'll also be talking about Square Enix, as they did mention their sales, thoughts, and expectations for Final Fantasy 16, where they sit with that, and even some of their plans going forward as to how they can more or less recover quite a bit of lost value. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're gonna start today with Xbox Game Pass games for the end of September going into October with, I'd say, a pretty big surprise for people. But let's head over here to news.xbox.com. And we can start with Lies of P. That is out now, and I'm playing some of them about 4 or 5 hours in, beyond even like what we had with the demo, for example. And I'm enjoying it. I think it's a pretty fun take on the Souls genre, of course, playing into the tale of Pinocchio, and I know the aesthetic is fun. I know it's basically playing into Bloodborne, but you know what? It works. Moving to September 20th, though, today, Party Animals, that's cloud and console. I have no idea what to expect from this game, but yeah, it's Game Pass. Might as well take a shot at it, see what we think. Payday 3, that's cloud, PC, and Xbox Series X and S. That is September 21st. That's available now, though, in like that weird early access period that is making quite the rounds right now with different new releases. Cocoon, that's console and PC, September 29th. I'm interested in this one, as it's from the gameplay designer of Limbo and Inside. And then I'd say the big surprise is Gotham Knights. This is hitting the service October 3rd, cloud, PC, and Xbox Series X and S, alongside of The Lamplighters League, cloud, PC, and Xbox Series X and S. I still don't think Gotham Knights is a very good game, but it's going into Game Pass, so you can kind of just try it out and see what you think. Otherwise, that and Payday 3, I am looking forward to jumping in to that one as well. But not too bad. Good way to close out September, go into October. And remember, Tokyo Game Show right around the corner. Probably going to have a few other, we'll say, Game Pass games drop in there. Maybe some just shadow drop completely over the weekend, we'll see. Also, we had some interesting data mining take place for F-099. We can see this posted up by Oatmeal Dome. Points out that there's unreleased game modes with arcade mode and survival mode. That arcade mode has a timer and time gates played in the circus. And check this out. This is from Luigi Blood, who points out multiple unused files, including brand new tracks, and one of them actually reuses the name of one of the Satellaview exclusive ones, which is very interesting. Now, Satellaview was sort of that attachment for the Super Famicom in Japan, and it would allow you to connect it to the internet and retrieve basically timed events and different things that would happen, and F-Zero was one of the games that would utilize that, which means that, yeah, a lot of those tracks kind of lost to time at this point, although there have been backups made and ROMs and stuff that you can get. However, it'd be kind of cool to see Nintendo maybe implement that as updates for, yeah, what's pretty much a live service game with F-099. Oh, and we did get some big news for parents and younger gamers, as we got a date for the Bluey game. We also have a little bit of a trailer here you can see. This game is coming out November 17th, PS5, PS4, Nintendo Switch, Xbox Series X, S, Xbox One, and PC. So pretty much everything. And again, if you're a parent, you have younger kids, this is a big deal to have a Bluey game happening. It's an incredibly popular show for the younger audience, and the game itself kind of reflects that. It doesn't look like it's going to be anything too crazy, something you can kind of play alongside of them and have some fun, really just, I guess, exploring the world of Bluey. So look out for that one again, hitting November 17th. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with this massive leak that hit Xbox, and this kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, really, it was overnight. All of a sudden, we started seeing these slides drop online, almost like PowerPoint presentations that you would walk into a corporate meeting where you're setting up and showing what plans are going forward from different departments. And one by one, they dropped online, and eventually we were looking at Microsoft's plans for their mid-generation refresh systems. I did a whole video on that yesterday. Check that one out if you're curious there, as well as plans for Game Pass additions, different games, how much they thought it would cost. We even had emails get out there of Phil Spencer discussing the PlayStation 5, what they thought of it, them maybe trying to buy Nintendo again. That was a big thing. But we also had a look at really the next, when these slides were really being made at 2020, 10 years of Microsoft's plans around their gaming division up to 2030. And yes, that even includes next generation plans and maybe what the concept is going to be. So a lot to really unpack here, and it's going to take, I think, several videos for me to really go over all of it with you guys. In fact, we'll cover two of the major topics here as we go through this, but really we have to start with how exactly this happened. And Stephen Totillo had a very good thread over on Twitter kind of explaining it. But as I had mentioned before, where we had the look at that Activision Blizzard email about the NG Switch, well, in there were, there's just a ton of files, and eventually there was one that people noticed that when put into Adobe PDF Reader had a number of attachments of unredacted slides. And well, that's really what happened. As soon as people noticed it, they started downloading and posting it online. Now, since then, all of these files were removed from that site. However, the internet never forgets, and there are many different forum threads and other places like on Twitter where they're just posted all over the place. There is one thread over on Reset Era, for example. You can see this very quickly. We'll scroll through it with all these different slides just available immediately. And as I said, we'll look at some of these as we go through because there is a lot of information here. But something that people were wondering is, whose fault is this? Because as soon as this was getting out there, people thought it was the FTC getting their revenge. They're putting this info out there unredacted just to show Microsoft. Well, turns out it was actually Microsoft, and VGC kind of covered this and updated their article as things were unfolding, with Microsoft reportedly responsible for this week's giant Xbox leak. And in fact, we have the judge posting this order related to the accidental publication of Microsoft documents, saying that these different files and whatnot will have to be resubmitted, just properly redacted. So basically, it does look like somebody at Microsoft just messed up. I mean, that's a pretty serious mess up, obviously, but really it was just these files were attached to already correctly redacted files. They just happened to be there. If they weren't, it'd be business as usual, no big deal or anything, but now we have a look at least what Microsoft was planning from 2020 going in to that decade. Well, we did also get a response from Phil Spencer. We can see this over on Twitter, where he says, "We've seen the conversation around old emails and documents. It's hard to see our team's work shared in this way because so much has changed and there's so much to be excited about right now and in the future. We will share the real plans when we are ready." Now, to go a step further, it appears that The Verge got access to Phil Spencer's internal memo with the team within Microsoft and Xbox. I will also point out it is kind of written in a way of Phil Spencer probably knew that this would leak out. A little bit of PR spin almost on this, but let's go through it very quickly. This is the Phil Spencer memo saying, "Today, several documents submitted in the court proceedings related to our proposed acquisition of Activision Blizzard were unintentionally disclosed. I know this is disappointing, even if many of the documents are well over a year old and our plans have evolved. I also know we all take the confidentiality of our plans and our partners' information very seriously. This leak obviously is not us living up to that expectation. We will learn from what happened and be better going forward. We all put incredible amounts of passion and energy into our work, and this is never how we want that hard work to be shared with the community. That said, there's so much more to be excited about, and when we're ready, we'll share the real plans with our players." Now, from there, Phil Spencer goes on to praise the work that the people there are doing, and of course, looking forward to the release of Forza Motorsport and the continuing support around Starfield. So, yeah, it's, again, probably the biggest leak I've ever seen in gaming history, especially because it affects what's going on at Microsoft right now. Again, this isn't necessarily just stuff that happened maybe a decade plus ago like we had with that Giga Leak. This is stuff that still has not happened, and really it seems like plans are in motion with things like those mid-gen refreshes, but let's actually go into some of that information we had here. And so we'll start with Bethesda and sort of their release lineup going forward. Now, this starts at fiscal year 2020, and that's essentially when this was created, at least the plan. And well, things kind of got put on hold with all the stuff that was going on with COVID and remote work, so just go ahead and stack multiple years on their planned releases, and it kind of makes sense when you realize that Starfield just came out, but here they're marking it as a fiscal year 2021 release. Yeah, I mean, we saw Starfield get delayed in the public eye anyway, but you can kind of see where at least they were planning to have it before things got flipped upside down when it came to development with COVID. But otherwise, you can see fiscal year 20, we have Doom Eternal and DLC, Elder Scrolls Online, Fallout Wastelanders, and Deathloop, as well as some free-to-play and mobile games, including Project Whirlwind. But really, things start to get interesting when you move up to fiscal year 2022 with the Indiana Jones game, the Oblivion remaster, which remember, that was rumored, and it's, it's pretty much confirmed here, so might be worth going back and taking a look at that Reddit post that was made. The Elder Scrolls Online expansion and Starfield downloadable content, which we now know about from Todd Howard and are actually expecting to come out next year. Moving to fiscal year 23, though, we have Doom Year Zero in DLC. People are wondering if that might be something with the original Doom, maybe like a remake of it or something there. Then we have Project Kestrel, Elder Scrolls Online expansion again, and Project Platinum. Moving up to fiscal year 24 is Elder Scrolls 6. Yeah, that's probably not happening in fiscal year 2024. Again, stack multiple years on this, considering everything that happened with COVID. Project Kestrel, the expansion. And then we have licensed IP game, Fallout 3 Remaster, which that's pretty exciting, actually, to see that, as well as Dishonored 3 and a Ghostwire Tokyo sequel. So we're still 3 or 4 years out from a lot of this stuff hitting, and we're basically getting a good look at what their plans are going forward. However, there's nothing with like Wolfenstein in there. I guess it could be a code name or something. And I also saw people mention, wait, there's no Halo in some of these mentions. Well, this is just for Bethesda. That's the biggest thing here is, remember, Microsoft with Xbox Game Studios and Bethesda still technically operate separately. So you're just looking at Bethesda's path forward, and this looks, I think, pretty good. I'm just really curious what Doom Zero is going to be and really how long it takes for us to actually get to Elder Scrolls 6. But in the meantime, Oblivion Remastered, Fallout 3 Remastered, and Dishonored 3. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun going forward. So I'm really curious to see what some of these titles end up looking like, and if plans have shifted internally to where maybe some of these don't even exist anymore. A lot of questions, but definitely interesting to see what they had planned, at least back in 2020. Next up, let's talk about a new controller that also leaked out from Xbox, and this one's kind of interesting because it seems like a vast improvement over the current Xbox Series controllers in multiple different ways. And we can see the slide here that, again, got leaked out from the whole FTC case. And this is under the name, I think is that Sebel? But it's the new Xbox controller. It says it's the world's best controller, now playing on a screen near you. But we can see the Play Anywhere, the Xbox Wireless 2, which with the, this is going to pair with those mid-gen refresh systems that will have a new Southbridge and seemingly new Bluetooth and even Wi-Fi. So seems like they're just improving maybe the connectivity between the controller wirelessly and the system. Direct to Cloud and Bluetooth 5.2. I want to point out Direct to Cloud because I think that's a pretty big deal, especially with what Microsoft's plans appear to be at this time, based on documentation, again, from this leak, for next generation. Direct to Cloud, to me, sounds like what Stadia was doing with their controllers, where the controller would actually be able to connect to your router and go directly to the different servers in Microsoft's data centers for streaming games, kind of cutting out the need to pair it to, say, your TV or your phone or anything like that. And the idea with Stadia was it would cut down on overall latency. So maybe that's just something Microsoft's planning going forward. And you can also manage devices and accessories, again, the seamless pair and switch. So there will be a new mobile app, I guess, that you can connect to the phone. And again, a lot of this kind of playing into what Stadia was doing. Now, immersion, they have precision haptic feedback. VCA haptics double as speakers, accelerometer, quieter buttons, and thumbsticks. By the way, the rumble that they're describing is basically what's in the PS5 and the Nintendo Switch currently, and the fact that they have haptics doubling as speakers, that's something that your Switch can do. If you're playing Mario Party, for example, when it's your turn, it makes a beeping noise using the rumble inside of your Joy-Con. It's pretty cool stuff. Then having that gyro in their accelerometer is a nice addition. These are features that I feel like Microsoft should have launched alongside of the Xbox Series with, and maybe they got the message after that happened and they wanted to make the move with the mid-gen refresh. Now, another big thing I wanted to point out, they do have rechargeable and swappable battery. That makes me think of what 8BitDo has been doing with their SN30 Pro controller, where you can remove the rechargeable battery they have and then also put double A's in. It's an awesome middle ground, I would say, for what we've seen either completely sealed in the controller or just having to go along with double A's and buy that rechargeable one separately. They also point out new modular thumbsticks, improved longevity, continued build improvements, and Engaged and Delight. They have lift to wake. That's actually a pretty cool feature. So if your controller's just sitting on a table or a couch or something and you want to just go ahead and play your game for a little bit, you pick it up and it'll turn on, and maybe in turn, it'll also turn on your Xbox. So that's an interesting idea for a feature there. The thing I'm not really sold on though is the look of the controller. It looks like it's glossy white plastic, and then you have kind of the black handles. Glossy white plastic, I don't know, just matte black. Perfectly fine there with some sort of texture for the added grip, but it appears they'll also have, at least according to the slide, the Xbox Design Lab. So technically then you can kind of change it up as you'd like and maybe take advantage of the two-tone design. Now, if this is launching alongside of those mid-gen refreshes, as was originally documented, we would expect this to come out next holiday, or at least in that second half of 2024 for the calendar year. So keep an eye out for this one, but yeah, I'm actually pretty happy with what they're doing here with their controllers. It's something I've been calling for quite a while to catch up to what we see Sony and Nintendo doing when it comes to the rumble and the gyro. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Square Enix and Final Fantasy 16. This has been a pretty big talking point online around the sales that were shared, which was 3 million or so in the first week. And to me, seems pretty good for a platform that isn't 100 million plus right now with the PS5, and Square at least has mentioned before that it's within expectations. However, analysts have kind of downplayed that a bit and even said that Square is going to have to change everything when it comes to how they're developing and creating games. I don't necessarily disagree with that, but not for something like Final Fantasy 16, because I think that's actually gone over pretty well for Square, but we can hear it straight from them. This is a Q&A with investors that's translated and posted up over on Square's website. We can see this. This is, by the way, from Takashi Kiru, who's the president and representative director over at Square. And there are a couple different questions and answers here. I'm just going to stick with two of them. The first one being about Final Fantasy 16, where the question was initial sales of FF16 were 3 million units. How did that compare to your expectations? And how do you plan to expand sales going forward? Say the achievement was in line with our expectations to expand sales. We have planned a variety of PR activities and other initiatives to encourage more of the growing PlayStation 5 installed base to play the title. So as they mentioned, PR activities, sure, but also they have downloadable content coming up, and who knows, maybe different spin-offs in other media. I mean, they have obviously delved into other aspects with Final Fantasy, whether it's different movies or cameo appearances in different games or media. So a lot of possibilities there with Final Fantasy 16. And then, after the DLC, there'll be a complete edition. It's also going to launch on PC. I think 16 will be around for quite a while and could end up being a really big seller for them just kind of over time. Now, the other question I want to take a look at is the last one on the page, where they ask, what do you hope to accomplish now that you have assumed the role of president? Now, the big thing they mention here is just the overall profitability and improving that, which, yeah, that's kind of your main goal as a business, but it's kind of the way they describe how they can make that work. Say, rather than solely attempting to create brand new IPs, we intend to take a nuanced approach to investment, whereby we also identify existing IPs with the potential to be upgraded to AAA status, taking return on investment into account as well. In so doing, we hope to establish greater depth to the layers of our portfolio, which, I mean, you can just look at the plethora of intellectual properties that Square can pull from. And hey, let me know down in the comments what series you would like to see Square look at and go, okay, let's dump some money into this and see what we can make happen with a more AAA budget. I mean, like Parasite Eve, I feel like that could make a return, even a full reboot. That might work. You could also technically look at Star Ocean, and I say go with a more AAA budget because there are obvious cutbacks with what they work with in that game with Tri-Ace and all of that, but maybe make a bit more of an effort when it comes to the budget and developers behind that series, as that sci-fi RPG I think is still relevant now. And seeing the Star Ocean coming up here in November, the remake of Second Story, and some of the hype around that, I think you could do something there. But again, there's a lot of different intellectual properties within Square they could dump money into and maybe make work. Let me know what you'd like to see down below. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, if you own a Switch, do you prefer to buy your games physically or digitally? Okay, 75% say physical. I mean, that's the correct answer, obviously. 25% say digital. It's interesting because you figure the Switch would end up having a pretty high digital attach rate because it being a handheld system, it is easier to travel around with a Switch loaded up with a bunch of games on the SD card. But on the other hand, we tend to get the whole game on the cartridge. I say tend to because we still get those titles that come out where you gotta download half the game, sometimes more, but something about still collecting those cartridges and the nice little cases and all that, it's still fun. But I still believe this generation coming up for Nintendo that I think is starting next year, 2024, might be the last one, even for them, with physical cartridges, physical media, as the next launch would be maybe 2032. And by then, I think we'll just be living in that all digital future. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Strikes Back, says, a bit apprehensive about this 72-hour paid early access trend is giving me online passes flashbacks. Online pass, am I thinking right? Is that the one where when you bought a used copy of Madden, as an example, you'd have to pay like $10 to get online with that? I remember that was really annoying back in the day. There's a store that sold used games with EA, of course, trying to throw a wrench into those plans. But the early access period has been going on for a while now, but it seems to be making a bit more of a resurgence, especially with some of these subscription services. I mean, think about Starfield. You could get that on Game Pass day one, or you spend $35, you get in early. And really by early, I mean the actual release date. These companies know that FOMO exists, especially in the social media age where people are sharing screenshots, talking about how awesome this game is. And they're like, oh yeah, you could get it right now if you want, or you wait a few more days and get it on the actual release date. It's all a big plan and strategy to get you to spend more money on it, but that happened with Payday 3. I saw it and I said, oh, people are playing it, I'm gonna jump on. And it's like, oh, you need the gold edition for like $80 or $90 or something. And I'm like, you know, I'll just wait. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Was the massive, historic leak for Microsoft. What did you take away from it the most? What was some of the more interesting things in there? And then also, what about Bethesda's game lineup that we just kind of know about now? And with Square Enix, them being willing to dump some more money into some of these current intellectual properties, where would you put some of those funds? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.